The medical frigate Mercy's light drifted quietly through the dark space near the Veil Nebula. Its white hull gleamed with red crosses painted on every side. Bright lights flashed in patterns that every spacefaring race knew meant one thing: hospital ship. The vessel broadcast healing frequencies on all channels, sending out the universal message of mercy and medical aid. Dr. Han-Sol Kim walked through the ship's main medical bay, checking on his patients. The 47 crew members aboard were all medical staff, doctors, nurses, engineers who kept the life support running. No weapons, no soldiers, just healers doing their job in the middle of a war zone. The patients came from many worlds. Human. Colonists with laser burns lay next to blue-skinned Altarians recovering from plasma wounds. In the isolation ward, even captured enemy soldiers received the same careful treatment as everyone else. Han-Sol believed in the old Earth saying his grandmother taught him, "A patient is just a patient, no matter what uniform they wore before." "Dr. Kim," called Nurse Lee Da-un from across the bay. She was young, barely 25, with quick hands and a gentle touch that made even the most frightened patients calm down. "The Krillian in bed 7 is asking for you." Han-Sol nodded and walked over to the large insectoid alien. The Krillian's compound eyes tracked his movement. Its translator device made clicking sounds before words came out in basic English. "Human. Doctor," it said. "Why do you heal me? My people fight yours." Han-Sol sat down beside the bed. He had answered this question many times before. "Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. That is all that matters here." The Krillian's antenna twitched in what Han-Sol had learned was surprise. Many alien species could not understand this human idea of treating enemies with kindness. In the Yai ship's engine room, Engineer Park Jun worked on the medical scanners. The Mercy's light carried the most advanced healing technology in human space. The scanners could detect injuries through armor and clothing, find internal bleeding, even spot infections before symptoms appeared. Jun loved his work. Every day, his machines helped save lives. On the bridge, Captain Yoon Sora watched the stars. She had commanded medical ships for 10 years. The Mercy's light was her third hospital vessel, and she ran it like her grandmother ran a village clinic back on Earth, with firm kindness and absolute dedication to helping others. "Captain," said Communications Officer Kim Tae-ho, "we are getting a distress signal from the mining station on Vega 7. Looks like another raider attack." Sora nodded. "Set course for Vega 7. Tell Dr. Kim to prepare for incoming wounded. The mining stations near the nebula were hit by raiders almost every month. Pirates, terrorists, and worse things hunted in this region of space. The Mercy's light had made this run dozens of times, always flying with full medical protection under galactic law. 20 minutes later, the ship's sensors picked up movement in the asteroid field ahead. Captain Sora expected to see the damaged transport ships from the mining station. Instead, her blood turned cold. "Captain," Tae-ho's voice shook, "those are not mining ships. Those are Vorthak raiders." The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as brutal killers. They were tall, gray-skinned humanoids with 4 arms and no concept of mercy. Their ships looked like metal insects, all sharp angles and weapon ports. Most species tried to avoid Vorthak space entirely. 5 Vorthak warships moved out of the asteroid field. Each one was 3 times larger than the Mercy's light. Their hulls were black with red markings that looked like wounds. "Send them our medical identification," Sora ordered. "Full broadcast on all channels. Make sure they know we are a hospital ship." Tae-ho's fingers flew over his controls. The Mercy's light sent out every medical signal it had. The red crosses on the hull lit up brighter. The healing frequencies increased their range. Every piece of equipment screamed to anyone listening, "This ship heals. It does not fight." The lead Vorthak ship responded. A massive gray face appeared on the main screen. War Commander Grixtal had scars covering half his face and eyes like black glass. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping stone. "Human medical vessel," he said. "You spread weakness among the strong. You teach mercy to warriors. You make the galaxy soft." Captain Sora stepped forward. "War Commander, we are a hospital ship operating under galactic medical protection laws. We have wounded aboard from many species, including your own people." Grixtal's 4 arms moved to weapon controls. "Yes, human. That is exactly the problem. You heal our enemies. You heal our own warriors and make them think strange thoughts about mercy and kindness. This ends now." "Wait!" Sora shouted. "We have Vorthak wounded aboard. Your own people." "They are weak now," Grixtal replied. "Contaminated by human ideas. Better they die clean." In the medical bay, Dr. Hansol felt the ship shake as the first energy blasts hit their shields. Alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Patients who could move sat up in their beds, fear in their eyes. "All medical staff, this is the captain." Sora's voice came over the speakers. "We are under attack. Prepare for emergency procedures." Hansol had trained for this moment, though he never believed it would happen. No one attacked hospital ships. It was against every law, every treaty, every basic rule that kept civilization from falling apart. Dayun ran to his side. "Doctor, what do we do?" Hansol looked around the medical bay. 43 patients from 7 different species lay helpless in their beds. His crew of healers had no weapons, no way to fight back. The Mercy's light had only basic shields meant to protect against space debris, not military weapons. "We do our job," he said quietly. "We take care of our patients." The ship shook again, harder this time. Emergency lights began flashing red. In the distance, Hansol could hear the sounds of hull damage, the terrible groaning of metal being torn apart. Captain Sora tried one last time to reason with the Vorthak commander. "War Commander Grixtal, if you do this, you will be known throughout the galaxy as the one who broke the medical protection laws. No species will trust the Vorthak again." Grixtal laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Fear is better than trust, human, and soon there will be no humans left to spread their poison of mercy." The Vorthak ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams designed to crack battle cruisers hit the small medical frigate. The shields collapsed in seconds, hull plates vaporized. Atmosphere began rushing out through dozens of holes. In the medical bay, patients and doctors alike were thrown to the floor as the artificial gravity failed. Emergency force fields tried to seal the hull breaches, but there were too many. The ship was dying. Dr. Hansol pulled himself to the communications console. His hands shook as he activated the emergency beacon. Around him, his crew worked desperately to save as many patients as possible, moving those who could be moved toward the escape pods. "This is Dr. Hansol Kim of the medical frigate Mercy's Light." He spoke into the microphone. His voice was calm despite the chaos around him. "We are under attack by Vorthak forces in violation of all medical protection laws. 47 souls aboard. We have done nothing but heal the wounded and sick. We die as healers." He looked around the medical bay one last time. Dayun was helping a wounded Altarian child into an escape pod. Nurse Park was carrying an unconscious human soldier. Everyone worked together, species helping species, even as death came for them all. The final explosion tore the Mercy's light apart. In the cold silence of space, debris scattered like broken dreams. The Vorthak ships turned and departed, leaving only wreckage behind. War Commander Grixtal was satisfied. One more source of human weakness had been eliminated from the galaxy. 6 months after the attack on the Mercy's light, a small transport ship docked with the remote research station Prometheus 7th. The station floated in empty space, far from any star system or trade route. It was exactly where someone would go if they wanted to disappear from the galaxy. Lee Da-un stepped off the transport carrying a single bag and a data storage device. She was the only survivor of the hospital ship massacre. For 6 months, she had traveled from world to world, telling anyone who would listen about what happened. Most people expressed sympathy and moved on. The galactic government made official protests that no one took seriously. Da-un was tired of sympathy. She wanted justice. The station's docking bay was clean, but empty. Automated systems guided her. Ship to the landing pad. A holographic figure appeared as she walked toward the inner doors. A blue-skinned woman in a lab coat. "Welcome to Prometheus 7th, the hologram said. "I am Dr. AI Assistant 7. You must be Lee Da-yun. Professor Wu is expecting you." Da-yun nodded. She had sent a message ahead, though she was not sure it would be answered. Professor Wu Jin-ho was a legend in human space, though few people talked about him anymore. 20 years ago, he had been humanity's greatest weapons designer. His inventions had won 3 wars and saved countless human lives. Then something changed. The professor had requested to stop all weapons research and move to theoretical physics instead. When the Terran Council tried to force him to continue making weapons, he disappeared entirely. Da-un walked through the station's corridors. The walls were lined with computer screens showing complex equations and star charts. She passed laboratories filled with strange machines that hummed with energy. The air smelled of ozone and metal. "Professor Wu works in Laboratory 7, the AI said, appearing on screens as Da-un passed. "He has been alone here for 15 years, except for Dr. Park Minji, who joined him 3 years ago." Da-yun found Laboratory 7 at the end of a long hallway. She knocked on the door, though it felt strange to knock in a space station with only 3 people aboard. "Come in," a voice said from inside. Professor Wu Jin-ho was not what Da-yun expected. She had imagined a tall, impressive man with the bearing of a military leader. Instead, she found a thin, quiet person in his 50s, with gray hair and tired eyes. He sat at a desk covered with papers and holographic displays. "You are the survivor," he said without looking up from his work. "From the medical ship." "Yes, Professor. I am Lee Da-yun. I was a medical engineer on the Mercy's light." Jin-ho finally looked at her. His eyes were sharp and intelligent, but there was sadness in them. That seemed very old. "Why have you come here, Ms. Lee?" "I do not make weapons anymore." Da-yun pulled out the data storage device. "I brought something that belonged to Dr. Han-Sol Kim, our chief medical officer, his research files. I thought you might want to see them." "Medical research?" Jin-ho looked confused. "I am a physicist, not a doctor. Dr. Kim was studying neural patterns in different alien species," Da-yun explained. "He wanted to improve medical treatment by understanding how different brains work. I think his research might interest you." Another person entered the laboratory. a woman about Jin-Ho's age with kind eyes and steady hands. "I am Dr. Park Minji," she said, bowing slightly to Da-un. "I handle the biological sciences here." Da-un handed over the data device. 47 people died on that ship, including Dr. Kim. The Vorthak killed them for helping wounded soldiers. They said we were making the galaxy weak by teaching mercy. Professor Jin-Ho took the device and plugged it into his computer system. Data began flowing across multiple screens, brain scans, neural maps, and treatment records from hundreds of patients. "Fascinating," Minji said, studying the displays. "Dr. Kim found patterns that connect all thinking species. Look at these, quantum-level brain structures. They are almost identical across completely different evolutionary paths." Jin-Ho stood up and walked to the largest screen. His fingers traced patterns in the data that meant nothing to Da-un, but clearly excited him. "This is remarkable work. Dr. Kim discovered something that could change our understanding of consciousness itself." "Professor," Da-un said quietly, "I did not come here just to share research. I want the people who killed my friends to pay for what they did." Jin-Ho turned to look at her. "Ms. Lee, I stopped making weapons because I learned that violence only creates more violence. When you kill your enemies, their children become your new enemies." "The Vorthak attacked a hospital ship," Da-un replied, her voice getting stronger. "They killed doctors and nurses who were trying to help people. If we do nothing, they will do it again." Minji looked between them with concern. "Professor, perhaps we should focus on the scientific value of this research rather than its potential applications." But Jin-Ho was already lost in thought, staring at the neural pattern data. These quantum consciousness structures, if they are truly universal among all thinking species, then theoretically, one could affect them from the outside. "What do you mean?" Da-un asked. Jin-Ho began pulling up his own research files. 20 years of theoretical work on quantum manipulation and consciousness studies. "I have been working on understanding how thoughts and emotions exist at the quantum level. This medical data shows that all species share certain basic neural quantum patterns." He paused, his hands hovering over the keyboard. "It might be possible to create a device that could influence these patterns remotely." Minji stepped forward. "Jin-Ho, you are talking about affecting minds directly. That is incredibly dangerous." "Not controlling minds," Jin-Ho said, his excitement growing. "Something more subtle, something that could make violent species understand the pain they cause others." Da-un felt her heart racing. "You mean make them feel what their victims feel?" "Theoretically, yes." Jin-Ho called up more data, combining Dr. Kim's medical research with his own quantum theories. If consciousness operates on quantum principles, and if these principles are universal, then one could broadcast specific frequencies that enhance natural empathy responses. "That sounds like a weapon to me," Minji said, worried. Jin-Ho shook his head. "Not a weapon, a teacher. Imagine if every time someone tried to hurt another person, they felt that person's pain as if it were their own. Violence would become almost impossible." Da-un looked at the complex equations filling the screens around them. She did not understand the science, but she understood the possibility. "Could this work on the Vorthak?" "The Vorthak have the same basic neural quantum structures as every other thinking species," Jin-Ho replied. "They have simply learned to ignore their natural empathy responses. This technology could make that impossible." Minji crossed her arms. "This is exactly the kind of research that made you leave weapons development in the first place, Professor. You said that some powers are too dangerous for anyone to have." Jin-Ho was quiet for a long moment, staring at the data from the destroyed hospital ship. The Vorthak killed 47 healers, Minji. They attacked people who had taken an oath to help others. If we do nothing, this will happen again. And if we do something, Minji replied, what happens to us? What happens to humanity when we start controlling other species' thoughts and emotions? Daeyeon stepped between them. Dr. Kim used to say that sometimes you have to choose between being good and being kind. Being good means following rules and staying safe. Being kind means helping people who are suffering, even when it is difficult. She looked directly at Professor Jin Ho. The galaxy needs to learn kindness, Professor. And if they will not learn it naturally, maybe we need to teach them. Jin Ho stared at the medical data for several minutes. Finally, he began typing commands into his computer. I will need 6 months to build a prototype device, maybe longer. Professor, Minji said softly, are you sure about this? Jin Ho did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the Vorthak attack, about 47 medical staff who died trying to help others, about a galaxy where mercy was seen as weakness. I am sure that something needs to change, he said finally. Whether this is the right change, we will find out. As the 3 humans began working together, combining medical research with quantum physics, none of them fully understood what they were about to unleash upon the galaxy. 8 months later, Professor Woo Jin Ho stood before a machine that could change everything. The device was smaller than he had expected, only the size of a large desk. Its surface was covered with quantum field generators and neural pattern broadcasters. Cables ran from the machine to computers that processed Dr. Kim's medical data along with Jin Ho's own research. The empathy protocol is ready for testing, Jin Ho announced to Dr. Park Minji and Lee Da-yoon. Minji looked at the machine with deep concern. Professor, we still do not fully understand what this device will do to a living mind. The theoretical models are one thing, but actual testing? We have run computer simulations for months, Jin Ho replied. The device works by broadcasting quantum frequencies that match the neural patterns found in all thinking species. It does not control minds. It simply makes natural empathy responses impossible to ignore. Daeyeon walked around the machine, studying its design. How does it work exactly? Jin Ho activated a holographic display showing brain patterns. Every thinking being has mirror neurons, brain cells that fire when they see others in pain or joy. These neurons create empathy, the ability to understand what others feel. In violent species like the Vorthak, these neurons have been trained to shut down during combat. The display changed to show quantum-level brain activity. At the quantum level, all consciousness follows similar patterns. Dr. Kim's research proved this. The empathy protocol broadcasts frequencies that force mirror neurons to activate at full strength, no matter how much the subject tries to suppress them. Minji shook her head. That means forcing someone to feel emotions they are trying to avoid. How is that different from mind control? Because we are not adding false emotions, Jin Ho explained. We are only making natural empathy impossible to ignore. If someone hurts another person while exposed to the protocol, they will feel that person's pain as if it were their own. If they see joy, they will feel joy. The emotions are real and natural. The station's AI appeared on a nearby screen. Professor, the test subjects have arrived. 3 weeks earlier, Jin Ho had requested Vorthak prisoners for his research. The Terran Defense Force had been happy to provide them. 5 captured Vorthak warriors were now held in the station's detention center. They had been told they would participate in medical experiments, which was technically true. "I want to observe the first test," Daon said. Minji crossed her arms. "This feels wrong, Professor. We are experimenting on prisoners who cannot give proper consent." "These prisoners have killed thousands of innocent people," Daon replied sharply. "They attacked hospital ships and medical stations. They deserve whatever happens to them." Jinho held up his hand. "This is not about revenge, Daon. This is about understanding. If the protocol works, we might be able to end violence throughout the galaxy. If it fails, we need to know why." They moved to the detention center, where the 5 Vorthak prisoners waited in separate cells. The warriors were tall and gray, with 4 arms and black eyes that showed no emotion. They had been captured during raids on human colonies. The first test subject was War Captain Vextar, who had commanded the attack on a farming world that killed 300 civilians. He sat in his cell, staring at the wall with the blank expression that Vorthak warriors used to show they felt no fear. "Vextar," Jinho spoke through the communication system. "We are going to test a new device. You will experience no physical pain." The Vorthak warrior did not respond. His people considered humans to be weak creatures whose opinions did not matter. Jinho activated the empathy protocol at its lowest setting. Quantum frequencies filled the detention center, invisible and silent. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, Vextar's expression changed. His black eyes widened slightly. His 4 hands moved to his chest as if something was wrong with his heart. "What is happening to him?" Minji asked. On the monitoring screens, they could see Vextar's brain activity, changing dramatically. Parts of his mind that had been quiet for years suddenly became active. Neural pathways that had been shut down since childhood began firing again. Jinho increased the power slightly. "Now I am adding memory stimulation. The protocol will make him remember his victims while his empathy neurons are fully active." Vextar suddenly stood up and backed against the wall of his cell. His breathing became rapid. For the first time in his adult life, he was feeling the pain and terror of the people he had killed. Every scream, every moment of fear, every death, he experienced them all as if they were happening to him. The proud warrior began to shake. Then, impossible for a Vorthak, tears started running down his gray face. "Stop it," Minji said urgently. "You are torturing him." "No," Jinho replied quietly. "I am showing him what torture feels like. What he did to others, he now feels himself." Vextar fell to his knees in the cell, his 4 arms wrapped around his body as if trying to protect himself from attacks that had happened years ago to other people. He began making sounds that no Vorthak warrior had ever made, sounds of grief and regret. Daun watched with fascination. "How long will this last?" "The effects are permanent," Jinho said. "Once mirror neurons are fully activated, they cannot be shut down again. He will feel empathy for the rest of his life." They tested the device on the other 4 prisoners. Each one had the same response. Proud warriors became crying, broken individuals who truly understood for the first time what they had done to others. The last prisoner, Sub-Commander Krella, surprised them all. After experiencing the protocol, he asked to speak with them directly. "Humans," he said through the communication system, his voice cracking with emotion. "I have done terrible things. I killed children on the colony world of Kepler-6. I can feel their fear now, as if I were them. How do I make this stop?" Jinho looked at his colleagues. You cannot make it stop, Krella. This is what those children felt when you killed them. This is what empathy means. Then I will spend my life trying to repair the damage I have done, the Vorthak said. Please, let me contact the families of my victims. Let me try to give them some peace. Minji stared at the transformed prisoners. Professor, what have we created? These are not the same beings that entered those cells. No, they are not, Jinho agreed. They are what they should have been all along. People capable of understanding others' pain. Daun felt a deep satisfaction watching the Vorthak warriors cry for their victims. This is perfect, Professor. We can use this on their entire species. Make them all feel what they have done. But Minji was deeply troubled. If we can force empathy, what else can we force? Today it is making violent people feel guilty. Tomorrow, what will we make people feel? This power is too great for anyone to have. Jinho stood quietly, watching the monitors that showed 5 transformed Vorthak prisoners. They were no longer the same individuals who had entered the cells. The protocol had fundamentally changed who they were. The question, he said finally, is not whether we can use this power. The question is whether we should. The machine hummed quietly in the background, waiting for its next use. In the detention center, 5 former warriors wept for people they had killed, feeling true regret for the first time in their lives. The galaxy was about to change forever. News of the hospital ship massacre spread across human space like wildfire. Every news channel showed the same horrible footage, the wreckage of the Mercy's light floating in space, and War Commander Grixtal's proud words about destroying human weakness. Public anger reached levels not seen since the early colony wars. Admiral Choi Sang-woo stood in the war room of the Terran Defense Force headquarters, watching the reports pour in. Protests filled the streets of every human world. Citizens demanded action against the Vorthak hegemony. The pressure on the military to respond was enormous. Admiral, his aide Captain Kim Jae-won said, the Galactic Council has issued another formal protest to the Vorthak. They called the attack regrettable and asked for compensation. Sang-woo slammed his fist on the table. Regrettable? They destroyed a hospital ship and killed 47 medical staff. The Galactic Council's words mean nothing. The truth was that most alien species feared the Vorthak too much to take real action. The Vorthak hegemony controlled 12 star systems and had one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. Other species preferred to look the other way rather than risk Vorthak anger. Sir, Jae-won continued, we have also received a message from Professor Woo Jin-ho. He wants to meet with you personally. Sang-woo looked up in surprise. Jin-ho had been a legend during the Proxima Wars 20 years ago. His weapons had saved countless human lives. Then he disappeared and became a ghost story that old soldiers told new recruits. Where is he? Research Station Prometheus 7. Sir, he says he has something that could help us against the Vorthak. 3 days later, Sang-woo's command ship arrived at the remote station. He brought with him a small team of officers, including Captain Yoon Tae-young, one of the fleet's best tactical commanders. Tae-young was young but smart and had survived 3 major battles against Vorthak raiders. Professor Jin-ho met them in the station's conference room. Sang-woo was surprised by how ordinary the famous scientist looked. Jin-ho was thin and quiet, wearing simple clothes with tired eyes that seemed much older than his face. Admiral, Jin-ho said, thank you for coming. I believe I have developed something that can help humanity respond to the Vorthak threat. What kind of weapon? Tae-young asked directly. Not exactly a weapon, Jinho replied. He activated a holographic display showing the empathy protocol device. This machine affects consciousness itself. It makes violent beings feel the pain of their victims. Dr. Park Minji and Lee Da-eun entered the room. Minji looked uncomfortable, while Da-eun seemed excited to finally have military support for their project. Jinho explained how the device worked, showing the brain scans and quantum frequency data. He told them about the tests on Vorthak prisoners, how proud warriors had become crying, regretful individuals who wanted to make peace with their victims' families. Admiral Sang-woo listened carefully. Professor, are you saying this device can make Vorthak stop fighting? More than that, Jinho replied. It can make them truly understand what they have done wrong. They will not just stop fighting, they will want to make up for the harm they have caused. Captain Tae-young leaned forward. How big is the effect range? How many ships can it affect at once? The current prototype works on a single vessel, Jinho said, but I can build a larger version that could affect an entire fleet. Minji stepped forward. Admiral, I must tell you that this technology is extremely dangerous. We are talking about changing how people think and feel. Once someone is affected, they are never the same again. Good, Da-eun said sharply. The Vorthak who killed Dr. Kim and the others should never be the same again. Sang-woo thought about the thousands of human civilians killed by Vorthak raiders over the past decade. He thought about the hospital ship floating in pieces in space. He thought about the families demanding justice for their lost loved ones. Professor, he said finally, how quickly can you build a fleet-scale version? 6 weeks, Jinho replied. Maybe less if I have military resources to help. You have whatever you need, Sang-woo decided. Captain Tae-young will command the test mission. Minji looked alarmed. Admiral, we should discuss the ethical implications more carefully. This technology could change the entire nature of warfare. Dr. Park, Sang-woo replied. The Vorthak changed the nature of warfare when they attacked a hospital ship. Now we respond in kind. 4 weeks later, Captain Tae-young's fleet moved toward the Kepler's Gate system, where Vorthak forces had been raiding human colonies. Intelligence reports showed a massive Vorthak armada gathering there, over 60 ships preparing for a major attack on human space. Tae-young's force was much smaller, only 20 ships, including his flagship, Determination, and Professor Jinho's specially modified research vessel New Hope. The New Hope carried the largest version of the empathy protocol device ever built. Captain, his communications officer Lieutenant Park Young-ho reported, the Vorthak fleet has detected us. They are moving to attack formation. Through the main view screen, Tae-young could see the enemy ships approaching. 60 massive Vorthak warships, each one bristling with weapons. His own fleet was completely outgunned. Professor, he called to Jinho over the communication system. How close do we need to be for your device to work? The closer the better, Jinho replied from the New Hope. Optimal range is 10,000 kilometers. Sir, Young-ho said nervously, that is point-blank range. Their weapons will tear us apart before we get that close. Tae-young nodded. All ships, maximum acceleration toward the enemy fleet. Focus all fire on their lead vessels. We need to break through their formation. The battle began with a tremendous exchange of energy weapons. Vorthak plasma cannons lit up space with deadly fire. Human ships responded with laser batteries and missile salvos. The smaller human fleet used speed and tactics to avoid the worst damage, but they were still outnumbered 3-1. The human ship Courage exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer. Freedom lost its engines and began drifting helplessly. Tae-Young's own flagship shook as enemy fire hit their shields. "Captain," Young-ho shouted over the noise of combat, "we are losing too many ships. We cannot reach optimal range." Tae-Young looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed. The Vorthak ships were closing in for the kill. In a few minutes, the battle would be over. "Professor Jin-ho," he called, "can your device work at longer range?" "Yes," Jin-ho replied, "but the effect will be weaker. It might not work on their entire fleet." "Do it now," Tae-Young ordered. "Full power." On the research ship New Hope, Professor Jin-ho activated the empathy protocol at maximum strength. Quantum frequencies spread out from the device, invisible waves that moved at the speed of light toward the Vorthak fleet. For several seconds, nothing changed. The battle continued as Vorthak ships moved in for the final attack. Then something extraordinary happened. The lead Vorthak ship suddenly stopped firing, then the ship next to it. One by one, across the entire enemy fleet, weapons went silent. On the bridge of the Vorthak flagship, War Commander Thexeral stared at his tactical display in confusion. His gunners had stopped responding to orders. When he looked around the bridge, he saw something impossible. His warriors were crying. The empathy protocol had reached across space and activated every mirror neuron in every Vorthak brain. Suddenly, 60 ships full of brutal warriors were feeling the pain of every victim they had ever harmed. Years of suppressed guilt and regret crashed over them like a tidal wave. Thexeral himself felt it too. The terror of human colonists as his ships bombed their cities, the grief of parents who lost children to his raids, the pain of wounded soldiers left to die. "All ships," he said into his communication system, his voice breaking, "cease fire. Cease fire immediately." Across the Vorthak fleet, warriors who had never felt regret in their lives suddenly understood what they had become. Ships that had been closing for the kill now drifted aimlessly as their crews dealt with overwhelming emotions. Captain Tae-Young watched in amazement as the entire enemy fleet surrendered without firing another shot. The Battle of Kepler's Gate was over, and humanity had won without destroying a single enemy vessel. The galaxy would never be the same. The victory at Kepler's Gate changed everything. Within days, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. A human fleet had defeated 60 Vorthak warships without destroying a single enemy vessel. Instead, the feared warriors had simply surrendered, many of them weeping openly on their bridges. Professor Woo Jin-ho found himself at the center of a storm he had not expected. Government officials, military leaders, and scientists from dozens of worlds wanted to understand his empathy protocol. Some called him humanity's greatest hero. Others called him the most dangerous person in the galaxy. Jin-ho stood in his laboratory on Prometheus 7, staring at data from the battle. The protocol had worked better than his most optimistic predictions. Every Vorthak warrior in the fleet had been affected. Many were now requesting to meet with families of their victims to ask for forgiveness. "Professor," Dr. Park Min-ji said as she entered the lab, "we need to talk about what happens next." Jin-ho turned to face her. Min-ji looked tired and worried. The success of their weapon had not made her happy. If anything, she seemed more concerned than before. "The Terran Defense Force wants us to build more devices," Jin-ho said. "Admiral, Choi believes we can end all Vorthak aggression within 6 months." "And after the Vorthak?" Min-ji asked. "What about other violent species? What about pirates and terrorists? How long before someone decides to use the protocol on humans who disagree with the government?" Li Daun entered the laboratory carrying reports from across human space. Professor, the families of the hospital ship victims want to thank you personally. You have given them justice. Have I? Jin Ho asked quietly. Or have I created something worse than the problem I was trying to solve? Da Yun looked confused. What do you mean? The Vorthak are no longer a threat. War Commander Grixtal himself has requested a meeting to discuss peace terms. He wants to make reparations for the hospital ship attack. Jin Ho activated a holographic display showing brain scans from the affected Vorthak warriors. Look at these neural patterns, Da-un. These are not the same beings who entered that battle. I have fundamentally changed who they are. Good, Da-un replied. They were killers. Now they are not. But they are also not themselves anymore, Minji said. We have taken away their ability to choose their own thoughts and feelings. How is that different from slavery? The debate was interrupted by an incoming message from Admiral Choi. His image appeared on the main screen, and he looked excited. Professor Jin Ho, the Admiral said, I have remarkable news. War Commander Grixtal has agreed to meet with you, personally. He is coming to Prometheus the 7th under a flag of truce. He wants to discuss the future of Vorthak-human relations. Jin Ho felt his stomach tighten. Grixtal was the warrior who had ordered the attack on the Mercy's Light, the one who had killed Dr. Kim and 46 other medical staff for the crime of showing mercy. When will he arrive? Jin Ho asked. Tomorrow, Choi replied. Professor, this could be the beginning of a new era of peace in the galaxy. The next day, a single Vorthak ship approached the research station. It was the same vessel that had led the attack on the hospital ship, but now it flew with white flags of surrender and peace. War Commander Grixtal came aboard alone, which was unprecedented for a Vorthak leader. He was tall and gray, with 4 arms and the characteristic scars of a veteran warrior. But his black eyes, which had once shown only cold determination, now held something different. Pain, regret, and something that might have been wisdom. Professor Wu Jinho, Grixtal said, his voice no longer the harsh growl of a conqueror. I have come to face the man who showed me what I truly am. Jinho, Minji, and Da-un met with the Vorthak commander in the station's main conference room. Security systems were active, but Jinho suspected they would not be needed. War Commander, Jinho said carefully, you ordered the destruction of a medical vessel and the murder of innocent healers. Grixtal's 4 hands shook slightly. Yes, I did these things. I believed that mercy was weakness, that compassion made the galaxy soft and vulnerable. I was wrong. The Vorthak leader looked directly at Da-un. You were on that ship. You survived. I am responsible for the death of your friends and colleagues. If you wish to execute me, I will accept that judgment. Da-un stared at the warrior who had haunted her nightmares for over a year. She had imagined this moment many times, but not like this. Grixtal was not the proud, merciless killer she remembered. He was broken, genuinely sorry, and completely transformed. I do not want to execute you, she said finally. I want you to understand what you did. I do understand, Grixtal replied. Your device made me feel the terror of every person I have killed. I experienced their final moments as if they were my own. The weight of that knowledge will be with me for the rest of my life. Jinho leaned forward. War Commander, I need you to answer a question honestly. Are you still yourself? Or have I created someone new wearing your face? Grixtal was quiet for a long time, considering the question. "I remember who I was," he said finally. "I remember my thoughts, my beliefs, my choices. But I also remember the pain of my victims. I cannot unknow what I now know. Am I the same person? No. Am I still myself? I believe so. I am simply myself with a complete understanding of the consequences of my actions." Minji spoke up. "But you had no choice in gaining that understanding. We forced it upon you." "Yes," Grixtal agreed. "And perhaps that was necessary. Some lessons are too important to be left to chance." Jinho stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "War Commander, what would happen if I used the protocol on the entire galaxy? Every thinking being, every species, all at once?" "Violence would become almost impossible," Grixtal said. "True empathy makes it very difficult to harm others. But you would also be making that choice for billions of beings who might prefer to remain as they are." "Even if it meant continued war and suffering?" Da-Yun asked. "Even then," the Vorthak replied. "The right to be wrong, to make bad choices, to learn slowly. These are fundamental to being a thinking creature." Jinho turned back to face them. In that moment, he made the most important decision of his life. "I am going to broadcast the protocol across the entire galaxy," he announced. "But at very low power, just enough to enhance natural empathy, not enough to control thoughts or emotions. Every species will become slightly more capable of understanding others' pain, but they will still have the freedom to choose their own actions." "Professor," Minji said, "that is still an enormous responsibility. You would be affecting every mind in the galaxy." "Someone has to," Jinho replied. "If we do nothing, the cycle of violence continues. If we do too much, we become tyrants. But if we do just enough, perhaps the galaxy can learn to be better on its own." 6 months later, Jinho activated the largest version of the empathy protocol ever built. Quantum frequencies spread out from Prometheus 7 at the speed of light, reaching every star system, every planet, every thinking mind in the galaxy. The changes were subtle at first. Wars did not end immediately, but they became less brutal. Pirates found it harder to attack civilian ships when they could feel their victims' fear. Politicians discovered that lying became more difficult when they could sense their constituents' disappointment. War Commander Grixtal established a new Vorthak government based on cooperation rather than conquest. Da-Yun became the first human, ambassador to the reformed Vorthak hegemony. Dr. Minji spent her remaining years studying the long-term effects of enhanced empathy on galactic civilization. As for Professor Jinho, he made one final choice. After ensuring that no one could ever again build a device capable of controlling consciousness on such a scale, he destroyed all his research and took his own life. His final message read, "Some powers are too great for any one person to possess. I have given the galaxy the gift of understanding. Now it is up to everyone else to decide what to do with it." The galaxy was forever changed, not by force, but by the simple ability to truly understand each other's pain and joy. It was not perfect, but it was kinder. And sometimes kindness is enough.